So this video is going to really be more for my non-lawyer followers, because if you went to law school or if you're a paralegal, you probably understand how precedent works when it comes to case law and how things really get decided in the court system. But if you didn't go to law school, if you're not a lawyer, then this video is all about what it means when the Supreme Court decides a case one way versus another, and how that's important to your every single day life. So stick around and I'll dive a little bit into that. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving break and you are getting back into the swing of things as we gear up for the rest of the holiday season. Well, right about now, you're probably reading articles about the Supreme Court hearing arguments over some pretty important cases, the most probably newsworthy of which are the abortion rights cases that they heard this week. They're in the middle of their winter term, which started back in October. And so right now, they are in the process of hearing oral arguments on all of these issues before they will eventually render opinions on each and every one of these cases. So I wanted to take a minute and kind of dive into the really basics of how that works and why that's important, because it's a topic that comes up a lot with clients of mine who are trying to get an understanding on really what the legal system consists of. Everybody knows that there are laws that exist, but what are the court's roles in those laws? So the first thing to understand is there are really two types of law that get applied to any case that goes in front of a judge or a jury. It doesn't matter if it's a civil case, a family law case, a criminal case, but there are two types of law, okay? There is what we call statutory law, which those are the rules, the statutes, the laws that are codified, written down. The legislature has passed them. They are the text. But then there's this other type of law that most people don't really understand that much about, and that's what's called case law. What case law is when the appellate courts have looked at those statutes, have looked at those laws, and they've had to interpret just exactly what do they mean. The most common example that comes up in the criminal law world is, you have this constitutional right against an unreasonable search and seizure. That's what the law is. That's the statutory law, is you can't be unreasonably searched in your person or belongings by the government. Easy enough, right? Well, where case law comes in, where precedent comes in, is over the years, there have been thousands and thousands of cases that have looked to try to define what exactly that means. What is reasonable and what is unreasonable? What is a search and what is not a search? Who is a government actor and who is not a government actor? Those are all things that are not contained within the text of the statute, and so we rely on case law to try to define those terms. So when you have a case and it goes to trial, or if it's in front of a judge, that's at what we typically will call the district court level. It can be county courts at law or whatever, but for right now, for our example, we'll say that's the district court level. That's the trial court level. Above that is your first kind of circuit or court of appeals. And then every state is a little bit different on how this hierarchy works, but generally speaking, you'll have the trial court level, you'll have an appellate court level, and then above that, you'll have a Supreme Court level, which is the highest court in the land. What case law means is that if a judge is presented a question, if a judge is presented an issue that he or she must decide, where the government says, this was a reasonable search, I say, no, this was an unreasonable search, and therefore, judge, you should throw it out. What that judge is tasked with doing is looking at the decisions that the court directly above it has made on that issue in the past. Because the court is going to be bound by that, what we call precedent, okay? If the higher court has looked at this question before, has looked at a question similar to this before, and has ruled one way or another, then the way the law works is the court underneath it is supposed to follow that instruction. So why that's important right now as the Supreme Court is hearing these cases on abortion rights based on a Mississippi law. It's a very specific case dealing with very specific facts. The Supreme Court is hearing this issue, but since they are the highest court in the land, since they preside over every other court that exists in America, the decision that they make on this Mississippi case will affect every other state in America, because the way precedence works, the way case law works, the way this legal system is set up, that decision is to be followed, must be followed by every court underneath the umbrella of the Supreme Court of the United States, which is every single court. So even though this is a Mississippi specific case, whatever this opinion is will apply to Texas, will apply to Kentucky, will apply to California, will apply to New York. It will apply everywhere. Just because it's a specific to Mississippi case, it is all-reaching and all-encompassing. So that's why these Supreme Court cases are of such importance, because they have these wide-reaching, consequences. And that's why when clients come in and they say, well, the law says this, so doesn't that mean X? Well, the answer I generally have to give them is, well, I don't know. I need to look up the different case law and see how courts have interpreted that specific question. So just like all of my topics, I could go on for a lot longer about this, but I wanted to kind of give a basic understanding of the difference between statutory law and case law and how precedent works. If you have any questions over this or really anything, obviously reach out, give me a shout, an email, a call. I'm always happy to discuss these things. I hope this was at least a little bit informative. And if there's another question that you'd like to see me answer in a future video, drop that in the comments below, send me an email, give me a call, and I'd be happy to take those questions and see what I can do to answer them. Have a great week as always. I look forward to a wonderful December with all of you. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next week.